Welcome in, guys. Adam here, the Orlando drummer. Good to see you all. Thank you for tuning in to another single lesson. So in today's lesson titled Gypsy, we're learning what I'm phrasing is like a half measure 16th note fill, but essentially it's just an 8-note pattern. And the way that we're orchestrating and phrasing this 8-note pattern, it's really versatile. You don't have to play it in this context of a half measure 16th note fill. You could quadruple this up and make it a 32nd note chop. You could do all sorts of stuff here, but I think the way that I have it laid out on the screen now, I think this is probably one of the more tasteful applications. And again, just 8 notes, so this will not take too long. Let's hop into it. I'll play it up to speed. Here is Gypsy, and then we'll break this guy down. Alright, so obviously the first 50% of the measure you can see on the screen is just groove. And the way that I'm playing this, you're always going to do that, right? You're always going to take your groove halfway into the measure, so beats 1 and 2 are sort of the remainder of whatever groove you want to play this against. And then halfway into the measure, on the downbeat of 3, that's where we're starting this lick. And again, only 8 notes in 16th notes, so we have 3 E and 4 E and and that's it. So our pattern here is really a 5-note pattern with the hands, and that's going to be played as right, left, left, right, left. Those are our first 5 notes of the hand pattern. And I think of that in 2 sections. We have right, left, left, easy enough. Obviously, I'm giving that right hand a little bit of volume there. You can call it an accent if you want, but just a little bit louder. And after that, we have a right-left. So you can just play this 5-note pattern in its own little chunk if you want to get used to this pattern. And obviously, if you're doing that, the only quiet notes are going to be those left-hand diddles. Everything else can be relatively full volume. Check it out. Now let's talk a little bit of orchestration before we move on. Orchestration here is very easy. Think of it as the right hands go to your toms, and that's it, right? That's all we're really doing here. So that first right hand goes up to the rack tom, right, left, left. And then when we play the 2 single strokes, right, left, just move the right hand down to the floor tom. Not bad at all. Check it out. Cool little mannerism to get down there, and we are only 3 notes away from finishing this thing, right? Not bad at all. So after this, we're going to attach 2 kick drums, and I think maybe before we play everything together, let's just hear what that sounds like. Our 5-note hand pattern, I'll play it exactly how I just had it orchestrated with the right hand moving between the toms. Then we'll add 2 kick drums to that just to get a more complete picture of what this pattern might sound like when we play it all together. So after those 7 notes, we're going to attach a flam or a unison hit, whatever you want to call it, to the very end. So this is our last available 16th note in the measure. It's on the of beat 4. I'm playing it as a nice loud snare drum with a crash at the same time. Right hand did the crash, left hand did the snare. And this sort of takes us back into the groove, whatever groove you want to play. Now, there's a few different things that you could do here, but I like having this big explosion at the very end. It kind of makes it this unexpected little fill, right? It just makes it feel a little bit more unpredictable, a little bit more of an unexpected moment to happen. So you can play right hand on the crash, left hand on the snare if you want. That's the biggest explosion. If you wanted to tighten it up and make it a little bit more funky, fusiony, and sort of controlled, you could do right hand on the hi-hat, barked, and then a left hand. You could do this. Not a right way or a wrong way to do it, just a couple options that you have. So let me play this really slow for you at first, and I'll just experiment with some of those orchestration options that we might have, as, specifically to the of beat 4, how we can come out of this thing. So I'll play everything else as it's written, and then that very last note, the of beat 4, I'll show you guys a couple weird things we can do to sort of come out. Check it out. So feel free to mess around there. Obviously a lot of different things that you can do, but another spot you want to toy around with the orchestration is the right hand itself, right? You can do all sorts of interesting things if you're willing to take that right hand and say, well, maybe it doesn't go to the rack tom, maybe it doesn't go to the floor tom, maybe it goes somewhere else. Let's experiment. Endless options there, obviously. I could spend the next hour showing you guys different places where we can move a right hand on the drum set, obviously. But I just want to encourage you to take the time to experiment with some of those positions, some of those placements, because the version, the orchestration that I'm showing you in this lesson is most definitely not the only one. I just think it's a particularly tasteful one, but you should definitely experiment and see what you can do with this exact same pattern. All right, so now that we know what's going on, there's our 8 notes, not tremendously difficult, so let's just plug this thing in and play it at 3 speeds. I'm gonna start out very slow here just so we can hear what the pattern sounds like and sort of follow along the notes as they pass. But this thing does have a pretty high home tempo. I think it sounds good pushed a little bit faster. So we're gonna take it all the way up to a much higher speed at the end here, but let's just play it nice and slow for now. Then we'll go to a mid-tempo, practice tempo, then we'll crank this thing up. Here it is, guys, this is Gypsy. Let's do it.